We are here with our special guest for this evening, international Zenon superstar Kromagon, aka Nick.
What's
How
up?
you going, mate?
Good. How are you?
Not too bad, thank you. Not
Happy
too bad.
to be here with you guys.
It's a pleasure to have you on.
Thank
pleasure
you.
to have you on.
Thank you so much.
How's your time been in Australia so far?
It's amazing every time.
Yeah.
I love Australia.
Yeah.
It's an important place for me to come. Actually, I love being here. I have lots of friends. All the gigs are always amazing. I have a lot of support here. So
We love your bloody music down here.
thank you so much. Thank you.
How many times will this have been now that you've been to Australia?
This is going to be my 6th time here.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I actually already came here this year.
Really?
Yes. So I made a decision with my new agent to not come next year
Yeah.
for the first time in like 5 years now. So that makes me sad.
Yeah, it does. Makes us sad
Yeah. Makes me a bit sad, but that means 2021 is going to be epic. I'm going to have new gear and it's going to be amazing.
too. Looking forward to it.
Great.
What inspired you to create your second psychedelic project, Kromagon, as we've mentioned the name?
It was actually created out of necessity in a way because I had the NIKROMA project going on, which is techno. And as that project grew in popularity, I was thrown into more energetic or more nighttime time slots. And that just required a different kind of music. You know, it kind of required more energy, more drive. And I began playing that kind of music. And that was sort of the initial birth of realizing that I have 2 projects. It's not just one, right? I think it's important to not make everything under one blanket name, to separate the projects in a way, because it helps me in the creation stage and it also helps everybody else sort of understand what to expect. you know?
That's right. So you could say that it was, some new production techniques were learnt along the way there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Producing darker sounds, more
Precisely.
driving sounds?
More
Yeah.
driving sounds, yes. And yeah, it was all just out of really necessity. It wasn't my original plan to have multiple projects. I thought that was quite a large undertaking, actually, because I was already doing the chroma so hard, and that takes a lot of energy to do one. So, but yeah, new production techniques, new opportunities. A couple aspects are what kind of birthed it naturally.
Your album, Ravings of a Madman, released on Zenon Records, is a combination of surgically constructed sounds with intoxicatingly groovy rhythms.
Ooh, I like the way you worded that. Excellent
Thanks,
job.
I thought about that.
Yeah, you did.
What were the influential elements of this project, of the
Okay.
Ravings of a Madman?
In terms of like musically or the original
Musically,
vision?
or within the sound design, or within the overall goal from the start of concept to completion?
Really, it was this whole concept of the album was to be one, dark and driving, and also like crispy. Those are like sort of the key words that I kept saying to myself as I'm creating this piece. I also wanted to make sure that I incorporated a lot of my earlier musical influences, being like through industrial music and metal music and punk, and also wanting to sort of pave a new, sort of create a new measurement in sonic quality. So actually doing this was kind of difficult because the music that I like is quite dirty. The music that I listen to at home, it's not clean or anything. So it's kind of, it's almost contradictory in a way.
You able to give us an example of what you would listen to at home?
I actually don't really listen to much electronic music. Most of the music I listen to is metal, and since I've been listening to metal for so long, just as a lover of any sort of style, you get very niche. You find the weird, obscure, strange music, and I find that to be some of my favorites. So really, metal music is quite a vast genre, and for the last I would say decade. I've mostly just been listening to different varieties of black metal, which is very noisy music. I also like industrial music a lot. EBM had a big influence on me as when I was younger. So try to incorporate a lot of that too, you know, which is like really like aggressive snares, you know, noisy snares, scratchy leads. And that's what I bring out of the industrial part. Out of sort of the metal influence is more so like the essence of the vibe that metal creates, that black metal creates especially, which is like a very atmospheric tone, very grim thing. Industrial doesn't necessarily have that, so I feel like that's where those two pieces of my life sort of meet to create this piece, which is the album.
Very interesting. I can definitely see the correlation with, you know, the dark style and the dark elements with, you know, absolutely.
I'm very
absolutely,
happy
mate.
to hear that, actually. Great.
Did you have any setbacks that were, you know, any challenges that were difficult to overcome throughout the process of the album, or?
Yes, of course. So over the 4 years it took to make this piece, I had two major setbacks. The first major setback was a sort of reoccurring subject that you hear with all artists, and that is needing to deal with, you know, the limitations that life put on you naturally, meaning money, needing to make money, needing to feed yourself and have a roof over your head, while still being able to center yourself and silence all the stress and create art and still continue that integrity to the art, you know, without, for example, thinking, I need money, I'm making this piece, and well, maybe I can make it a bit like this other guy's music because he sells a lot. Or maybe I don't need to spend as much time on this because I need to get this piece out so that I could hopefully maybe one day get a gig, right? So I never, even though I struggled with that a lot, I never sacrificed the authenticity of the piece in the end. That was the most important thing to me. It still is the most important thing, which is kind of, again, why I'm very thankful that you like the album. I mean, it means it's my whole life. It's not just a piece that I just did real quick, right? It's this thing that really is so, it was such a challenge, the biggest challenge I've ever had in my life was doing this. And I actually said, when I was done with it, I was like, I'm never going to do this ever again. But of course, now we're 2 years later or whatever, and I'm like all about it.
The payoff would surely be very rewarding.
It's been.
Surely. I mean, your music's like been heard by a lot of people around Australia.
I'm very grateful about that. Yeah, again, the second setback, so I said one, about 3 years into the album, I submitted it to Zenon, and Tim Sensient, he's the boss of Zenon, right? So I submitted to him after building up this thing for a long time, you know, talking to him about it, and he's getting really excited, and it's a long time coming at this point. And it was declined, actually, by Zenon. So imagine this. So 3 years into it, I do all this artistic integrity, all this struggle and challenge and evolution as an artist, developing the story I'm trying to tell. And then it's like I have this thing and I present it, and Tim says it's way too dark. Not Zenon, you know, I'm sorry, but like it's cool, but I don't think it fits this criteria. So imagine that. So for that, when I say 4 years it took to do the album, because then I had this 1 year of like wondering, who am I? You know, like what do I, like Zenon is this thing I've been with for so many years. That was the goal. Now I don't have this outlet. And, you know, the struggle becomes one of two things. You know, do you change the art, sacrifice the integrity of it for criteria that it has deemed unfit, or do I say screw it and I'll put it out myself, I'll put it out on something that maybe I don't believe in the product so much, but it's for the sake of the art. You know, it was really it was a very difficult time in my life, and long story short, what happened was I waited a year, I changed the mix a little bit, did a little bit of a better mix, And when I came back to Tim the following year, I kind of presented it to him with a more defined concept. You know, sort of. I had the name of the art, name of the album. I had an idea for the art. All the track names were kind of in line with the concept. It was just a more defined product in the end, and that's all he needed. Tim was like, "This is it. I love it." And it went from like being very apprehensive to just like, "Yes, we need it." You know, it's ready. Yeah. So,
Very nice.
yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah, very nice, man.
As we've discussed, you are part of the Zenon Records collective. It's described as deep, dark, and swampy. What do you think sets the Zenon sound apart from other progressive labels around the world?
First off, I think Zenon is a pioneer in the genre. I think that's sort of you can't argue that if you're into this kind of music.
Absolutely.
Right? So there's that aspect of it. And I think sort of the cool thing about Zenon is that it has broadened its sound over the years to become a little bit more eclectic. So, which is really nice, as opposed to, I think, some labels, they may be just very super defined, and you won't find so many different vibes. If you go onto the Zenon Bandcamp, for example, you can have music. There's even down-tempo music. Yeah. There's daytime. There's nighttime. You know, there's everything from me and Hypogeo to Earthiogen, Grouch. Right? It's such a vast thing, which I think is beautiful. So I think that sets it aside. I also think that even though there's a broader definition over the sound, it still is sort of leading in cutting edge production quality.
Definitely.
So I think
definitely.
you can always sort of rely on that about Zenon. At least if you don't like the track, you can appreciate the production value. Other than that, yeah, I mean, it's home. It has been home and is home currently to some of the leading acts in progressive. At one point, having Tetrameth and Shadow Effects, Tristan Boyle. Now to of course, Sensient's there the whole time. Some newer artists like Earthiogen, like I mentioned, Sumi Runa, and myself and Hypogeo. It's sort of a home for industry leaders in progressive. So that's where I think it kind of sets aside. Although, just quickly, I do want to mention that there is great music from all over the world, not just Zenon, especially in the progressive world, which I urge people to still continue hunting all these other smaller labels, because there's incredible artists.
There's a huge world.
Right, there is. It's vast. It is.
It's amazing.
Absolutely amazing how much of a big world there is of subgenres of psychedelic music.
Absolutely.
As Zenon was based in Melbourne for a few years and has such an influence in the psychedelic music scene here, we believe there should be Zenon-style stages at most of the major festivals here in Australia, similar to the way Modem had the Swamp stage. Having played at multiple events here, do you think this would be appreciated by the crowds across our country here in Australia?
First off, kind of touching on what we just talked about a little bit, I mean, Zenon is an incredible label. But I am a fan of other labels as well. I think more so than having like a Zenon stage, which is really what kind of the Swamp stage has turned into. There's some other artists too, but it's our Zenon family showcasing everything we got. Not just to have a Zenon area, but having this style of music at all festivals, I think is really important. I think dark progressive, day progressive, bush prog, all these things are such an integral part of the festival experience. Also, I'd like to mention that so is high tech, dark sci, techno. I mean, it's all important to have all of them. I think what progressive can offer is sort of like a gateway to all kinds of different psychedelic music. Like, I think that if there's a lover of techno and they came over to this fictitious stage we're talking about and they checked out some Zenon art, they might be like, okay, yeah, this is kind of cool. But then the greatest thing about prog is that they, let's say this individual stays at the stage, they may get the chance to witness a hypogeo set too. So they're sort of, they have this gateway into something that they can kind of rely on and that they can latch onto and relate to. And then they can also have like the power of a hypogeo set or Kromagon set, and further broadening their awareness and their ability to appreciate psychedelic music, right? And then maybe later in the night they come back for a dark side set and they said, "Oh yeah, I get it," So I think I think the crowd would appreciate this, and I think it is, like I said, a very integral, important piece of the experience for the listeners.
Absolutely. Yeah, we agree.
Yeah.
Also, we need dark prog everywhere. Dark prog at every festival if possible, but at least at majority of most Australian psychedelic festivals.
I agree.
At least.
I think worldwide. I'm going to say that same thing I've been to the rest of the world, and I will tell you, I think every part of the world can appreciate in the right time and place a good dark prog set. It should always be available, I think.
Global it is.
Global domination.
For those that don't know, you hold regular production workshops for aspiring producers whilst also touring the world playing events. Some would say this is the definition of living a dream, mate. Do you consider yourself lucky to have achieved such success, or has hard work prevailed you to further your career?
First off, I consider myself very lucky. 100%. I'm very lucky. Every day I live with this gratitude. Every day I wake up, I'm so excited about my life. I am in a constant state of gratitude. Although I do recall all of the evolution and the struggle and the hard work and sweat and blood that I've
And tears.
Oh, there's been tears. Oh, yes.
Surely.
Right, surely. Just dealing with life and also trying to strive for this dream that, of course, when one begins, they wouldn't assume, oh, I'm going to be, asterisks or whatever. I'm not going to, whatever. Actually, when I started, I didn't care if I was successful or not. I just wanted to create art, and I wanted to tell a story so desperately that I was like, I don't care. I'm just going to learn and evolve and develop as an artist for the sake of just expression, right? So yeah, that's why when I wake up and I'm like, wow, look at where I am. I'm here doing this interview with you guys in this country far, far away.
Yes.
It's pretty incredible.
Yeah,
it really,
absolutely.
really is. But again, yeah, for anybody, any aspiring artist, you put in the work and you put in the determination. And I think in our scene, at least, I haven't had experience in other fields of art, but in this field, the scene rewards longevity and dedication.
Yeah,
really
absolutely.
Does. Yeah,
absolutely.
Exciting times ahead with the new album in the works. What fuels your desire to create and share your new project that you're deciding to work on? Yes.
Well, my Ravings of a Madman was released in, I think it was like November or December of 2017, if I'm not mistaken. Of course, it's been in the works forever, so it's hard for me to actually tell the exact date, because I feel like it's been like supposed to be done for years, but that's when it was actually released. And so it's been, 2 years? Almost. We're nearing on 2 years now, right?
Yeah, 2 years.
Kind of interesting side thing to note is that like it's taken 2 years for it to catch on too. Like it was put out, and then my imagination was like, I'm gonna be huge, right? Yeah, finally I did this thing, and then nothing for like months and months. I remember asking, Tim and colleagues of mine, like, when do you get a gig? When can I play it? So it's just kind of at this point where it's made its rounds in, I guess, the general consciousness, right? It's been heard. And that's kind of good, because it's given me a lot of time for it to settle in me, releasing this thing that took so long, sort of me to regain energy about creating new art, get influenced. A lot of changes in my life have occurred since then, good and bad, I guess, just like like life will have you. That's sort of given me more inspiration. So, like I said, I wasn't going to do it again. It's been 2 years. I'm ready to get this new stuff out. Secondly, there were some tracks that didn't make it on the album that were really good tracks. And how I work often is I will never stop myself from starting a new project. And if I'm willing, if I want to right now, I'll open up new kick and bass, whatever, I always try and live in that flow. So I'm never forcing it when I need it to happen, right? I always have a folder on my computer that's called good ideas, and maybe it's like 5 seconds or maybe it's a minute, So what I'll do often is I'll go back many, many months. I try and not look at projects for as long as I can, years if possible. So when I open up this thing, I can listen to it with a fresh outlook, and I can really determine, like, is this good? Does this portray me as an individual now? And then what I'll do is I'll maybe choose 2 of them, and then I'll smash them together, and that will create this new hybrid thing.
Platform for a new track.
Yeah, exactly. So I did a lot of this for my album, and a lot of these tracks that just didn't make it, these good ideas, I listened to with a fresh ear, sort of trying to listen to it as like a third party. And these are really good ideas. So I'm invigorated to get this music out badly now, or almost to get things off my plate and have a clean slate, which will probably never happen. As an artist, it's never like that, right? But, just trying to get that. And also just generally because I do believe in some of this new music. It is amazing. I've been playing it here and there. Of course, I can even say it's amazing now because it's new for me. Like, my album is good, right? I think it's got a lot of unique things about it. And I did tell the story how I wanted it to, but I'm not as excited as I once was. Now this new stuff, I'm just like, I think I even can say this is pretty sick music. So that is a very cool feeling that I finally have recently. So that's, I think, the main thing right now. I'm getting the bug again. I need to get this story out, right?
The urge.
Yeah, the urge, yeah.
So you're talking about like you've finished, or is it still in the works?
I'd say I have maybe 5 tracks that are 80% done. Yeah. That means I could play them.
Perhaps
they're playable.
Yeah.
They may not have an intro. Yeah. They may not have an outro, but they have a really good 3 minutes in there that's just solid, right? Yeah. And at this point that I'm at now, I'm able to even test the tracks out. And that's a big thing for me with my album. It took a long time to create because I would always be waiting for a gig so that I could test this track. And a lot of times, fail. Yeah. A lot of times I'd play these tracks and they sound like crap, or they get boring, in the middle of it. And I would always be making a note of that. I go to Brazil, play the same track. God, they don't like it. But I was in Australia and they were just eating it up.
Yeah.
Why? Yeah. Trying to dissect that and figure out a product that everybody can sort of. I want the story to translate among as many types of people as possible, not just one kind of person, not just metalheads or whatever, So that's the process I'm in right now with this album, with these 5 tracks, for example, is just checking it out. I got to play 1 track at my Aeon out here. That's a club out here for everybody who doesn't know. Pretty cool club, actually. Kind of like wild in a way.
It is wild in a way.
It is a wild club, yeah. And it really, I had a great time playing. It was awesome. Every time I play there, it's the same way. It's just wild. Everybody's just freaking out,
jumping
around and yelling, and it's just that club experience. It really offers that, right? It's not so big, so you can really make it look energetic in there. So I played one of the tracks, and it was awesome. I was so happy with the crowd reaction, and just feeling kind of nervous again. Like, I'm gonna play this thing. It could be the worst kick and bass I've ever made, but
Butterflies in the stomach.
Butterflies. Yeah. I don't get that with my album. It seems to translate well sonically.
Yeah.
Many places. But yeah, it's a good sort of, it's like a childlike butterfly, like it could fail, and then it doesn't, and you're like, yes, it's very exciting. Yes, it's very exciting.
So you wanted to tell a story with the last album. Is it the same sort of vision, or what's your vision for the new album?
Okay. I think that my answer will probably differ to other artists or to many other artists, but the Kromagon project is becoming more and more chiseled away and defined into a very apparent sculpture. By that I mean I want to give. Not only do I like the theme that I'm going, but I also want to give something reliable to my fans. I think people are used to Kromagon being, dark driving, obviously psychedelic, nighttime oriented, and like you said, very surgical, crispy cut. That's part of
crispy is a very good describing word,
isn't that? Crispy,
crisp, clean sound.
Crispy, clean. Yeah. So I guess a sort of blanket answer would be, I want to do the same thing. I want to. This is the story I want to tell. I like this story. I like, I still listen to the same music. I'm better at making music now. I feel like I can tell the story even better. Yep. I feel like I can do it. It'll translate easier now. It's such a wonderful feeling to have a project that has such a direction, and not just being so open to where I'm kind of like, well, maybe I'll do this. Well, it doesn't work in the set. I'll do that. You know what I mean? It's this one thing, this one beast that you can just know when I come on what it's going to be, and it's always going to be that, and it's going to be different, and it's going to evolve to be that more. Yeah. But so to answer your question, I think the album is going to be more of what we want Kromagon to be, right? The same old, So yeah. But then again, of course, there is like a new name. There is a concept. I think Ravings of a Madman it was kind of put together with, track by track in a way. And I had to sort of, after they were all done, sort of mold them into a uniformity in a way, right? So that it was one concept. But this time I have a concept. I have a name that I'm not going to reveal now.
That's fine.
It may change. Yeah, it may change. But the overall concept is going to be about is going to be based around like Armageddon, anarchy, desolation, this sort of grim reality that we may be facing in the future through technology, and not sugarcoating it in a way, really, grim and desolate are two things that I really want to portray in the album. Of course, it needs to be dance floor oriented, so it's going to be very groovy still. But yeah, it's just going to be that blanket over everything, that underlying keyword, right?
Do you have any idea when you're going to release the album, or have you actually even thought about it?
So I'd like to release the album at the end of next year, around the same time. Yeah. I think this October to December is a good time in the festival circuit to release something new. That gives everybody time, so maybe by the time summer in Europe hits, it's reached as many people's ears, and perhaps get a tour going based around the release. Yeah. So that's what I'm thinking, but I do have an EP I'm going to finish before that.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
So I don't know if it's going to be 3 or 4 tracks, but they're not dark enough for the album. Yeah. But they're cool, right? Okay. So that's going to come out. I'm hoping that comes out maybe in January. Yeah. If it doesn't, well, then I have another EP coming out with my partner. I started a project with Hypogeo. It's called Shrot. Yeah. And it's our projects that we've been working on that have had really no home for a while. I mean, we've been working on music forever. I've known the guy for so long now, and we would start tracks and there'd be no purpose, we'd just start a track and just be drinking and everything, and just and they would end and we'd start another one, and then whatever, I'd leave his house and then we wouldn't even think about it again. But this year we did the same thing we always do, doing that, get in the studio, bro out, and he actually brought up this idea. He said, we should make this a product. What are we doing? Why are we not organizing ourselves more? And that birthed a drive to make music for a purpose, for a reason. And I think at this point we have 4 or 5 tracks that are excellent tracks. Cool. Very, very good tracks. If you can imagine, our styles are very easily intertwined together.
Both flavors together.
Piece of cake. Working with Nikoma is so easy. I'll work with anybody just for the sake of educational, to learn, and hang out. But with him, it's, he does something and I'm like, oh yeah, I was going to do that. And then I do something, he's like, yes, right? So there's synergy happening. And just this summer, we got this new EP almost finished. So it took, from me coming from 4 years to make a track, and I'm still working on tracks from back then, to this synergy in the studio with him, and having an EP done in one summer.
Yeah,
pretty
laying
good.
It out a lot quicker,
and very happy with it. I'm so anal with my art. I'm not going to just put it out like whatever, I need something out. No. But that is very good music, and we're trying to release this in January. So if my EP doesn't come out by then we're going to have this other product coming out, and it's going to be very good for us.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. Can't wait to hear it.
I can't wait to share it. I have played some of the tracks, so if you see me play like this year at all, I'll throw like 1 or 2 in, and just it's like changes the whole vibe. It's like amazing, really. I'm very proud of them.
That's good. Well, thank you so much for coming in and sharing with us a bit of insight into yourself personally and as an artist.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's been great.
It's good to see someone of your criteria giving back to the world of psychedelic trance also, so that's
excellent.
Really well done there.
Thank you so much.
No
I appreciate it.
all.
Thank you for your kind words about my art. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you for coming in. It has been an absolute pleasure. We've been long awaiting this meeting with you.
I loved it. I had a great time, so thank you for having me.
Yeah,
really.
likewise.
It was really great conversation. You guys are awesome.
And hopefully back after 2021.
Yep.
When you're next down in Australia, we can catch up again.
Yes, we should. Actually, speaking about that, in 2021, I'm doing the tour with Nikoma, with Hypogeo.
Cool.
So we're going to do Shroud, Hypogeo, Kromagon, probably Brodo, Thrax. So it's going to be this huge thing of all this music. So he's going to be here too. We should definitely revisit all this conversation. Yeah.
Absolutely. We would love that.
I think we'd be stupid to say no. It would be absolutely rude.
Maybe we'll interview you guys next.